Okay, we're continuing with quotes. We're on the letter K. The first one is Khrushchev. He was the ruler of Russia around the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis with JFK. And he was sort of a real big mouth. And he said things like, first of all, he's the one who was smacking his shoe on the end of the table saying to USA, "We will bury you." Okay, and Sam Kinison has a comedy routine about that. But here's another quote of him. "We have no use for the policy of the Gospels. If someone slaps you, just turn the other cheek. We had shown that anyone who slapped us on our cheek would get his head kicked off." And what I'm trying to say is that's atheistic Darwinism right there. It's all based on force and brutality, and that's why they suck. I mean, they never produce anything worth a crap. All they can do is copy other people, and they produce nothing in art and music and architecture and literature. They suck, okay? So don't ever be fooled by somebody who tells you that atheism works. Soviet Union is a perfect example of atheism. So is China, and they can't produce anything on their own, and it's always just brutal and evil, and they stink. Okay, all right. Joseph Wood Crutch, he said, "Happiness is a kind of gratitude," and there's some truth in that. You know, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Now, some things really are good, some things really are bad, but your attitude can shape a lot of how you feel. You know, the glass half cup, half full, half empty. Okay, Stanley Kubrick, the movie director, he said, "The truth of a thing is in the feel of it, not in the think of it." And certainly for artistic stuff, you know, the emotional component is really important, probably more important most of the time. All right, the main star of the day is Thomas Kuhn. He lived from 1922 to 1996, and the big thing that made him famous was his book about scientific paradigm change, scientific revolution. How does one change how a scientific field thinks? So some of these are quotes from him. Some of them are sort of paraphrases. "Normal science is dogmatic, and everyone is expected to follow a paradigm in the field." Yeah, that is true. Like in conventional medicine, you must say, this is the recommended thing based on the drug protocol. Okay, the drug protocol could be total nonsense. It never works, but it's what's written into the books, and you have to go by that in conventional medicine to be protected from medical legal problems. Okay? Even if it's totally stupid and it makes the outcomes worse. Like antidepressants for so-called depression. They make the patient worse, but that's the standard of care if you're going to go through conventional medicine. "Only when there is a crisis of confidence in the paradigm is there a science based on reason, like that of Popper's view, where a hypothesis can be falsified. Crisis in science is when people are losing faith in the old paradigm and a new paradigm is challenging." Well, usually some people will come along and they'll have a better idea and they'll just tell them, "Shut up." And you know, a lot of organized medicine, it's like organized crime. Okay, you can't challenge chemotherapy for treatment of cancer. If you do, you'll have your license taken away. If you say my supplement or whatever is better, they'll take your license away. They've got billions of dollars, so you can't just walk in there and say I have a better treatment for cancer. No way. They won't allow it. And the chemo, well, we're not going to even get into chemo. That's a topic for another day. All right. Kuhn continues. "To change a new paradigm is, according to Kuhn, like a religious conversion." And I can tell you, that's almost like the experience I had when, I was raised straight down the pike in conventional medicine, 99 boards and all this stuff. I read everything. Match yield to pill, send a bill. I believed in it. I thought that's what medicine is until I got fat. My mother was sick. My father was sick. And I'm like, nothing that the drugs could do would really help them that much. And I'm like, pills can't do much. Is that all there is to it? Then I started reading about nutrition. I'm like, holy crap. Kempner, McDougall, Swank, Burkitt, and these other ones, later Caldwell Esselstyn, curing all these patients. And, nobody else can. I'm like, wow. The real power of medicine comes from nutrition, toxicology, epidemiology, and then learning some other things, learning about natural things, sunlight, circadian rhythms, the danger of dentistry chemicals, okay? All right. Kuhn mentions that normal science is most of the time just following a paradigm, trying to answer the micro questions, trying to resolve the little minor issues that remain in the field. And it tends to be wimpy, and you don't need to be very intelligent to do this type of research. You simply look at the paradigm, you say, what's the next step in completely solidifying the paradigm, the micro question to be answered, and that's a lot of what university PhD research is. And there's also like alchemy. Who can make the magic drug that's going to, be the next $1 billion bonanza? So that's what everybody's chasing. But the way you really tend to answer questions effectively is just simple questions. What causes this disease? What makes it worse? What makes it better? Is there anything else we can do to make it better? As simple as that type of thinking is, that's what actually finds cures and works. But when you think that way, just in a general way, it's very difficult to get funding. So Kuhn knew he was onto something, but he didn't want to overplay his hand. Part of learning science is learning how to see new things. Part is learning how to say new things. A lot of vocabulary in the beginning. Sort of my thinking was you have to learn the rules of a system before you can discover a new system. Before you realize the system doesn't work. You sort of, like a lot of people say, like Lorraine Day, I bought the lie. Okay. When you're in med school, that's all you see. You have blinders on. You're told by all these professors, all these people higher up than you in the hierarchy that this is what the truth is about health. So you believe it. That's the yield of the pill, send a bill. That sounds like the truth. And it's only when you start breaking out and, brave people that go ahead of you, Kempner, Burkitt, McDougall, Swank, Esselstyn, all these types, Pritikin, that you're like, holy crap. They're right. The paradigm's wrong, Like I can remember I had a doctor friend, he told me he used to think chiropractors were a joke and some of these other fields were a joke. And then he realized a lot of stuff he was doing was pretty stupid, not based on any science. And he's like, it's hard for me to know what's true and what's not true. And I'll tell you, you'll never find a higher rate of therapeutic benefits and cures than you will studying nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology. Okay, because I've spent tons of times digging through books and trying to understand how could I have helped my mother, how could I have helped the lady who was the mother of my girlfriend, how could I have helped a few other people that were really important to me in my life, and my father, myself, and a few others, and that's it. I'm telling you, that's it. That's why I'm here, because that's it. There's no money in this food. If you'd have asked me, 25 years ago what I thought of vegans, I'll say, little wimpy, hippie, sandal-wearing, pot-smoking, drug addict scumbags. I would have thought, it was ridiculous. But the answer's taken me here. Okay, for Kuhn, normal science seeks to answer the micro questions. Another guy named Kasser kind of disputes him a little bit, says there's not always a crisis. DNA, discovery of its structure by Watson and Crick, there was no crisis. Yeah, sometimes you just sense we could get it. We could figure this out. Okay, so he says the key is to just take it a little farther in the imagination. I think actually one of the most common reasons stuff doesn't get discovered is because most PhDs, they just know their little area. They don't have any real sense of how health and disease really works, and they just don't know enough. Versus, you take a real smart person, Pritikin, put myself in there, Watson and Crick, and you just start reading all this paper. You're like, holy crap, the answer's already figured out. You just got to connect things from a couple different fields. They should let people read. I wish some rich person would sponsor me so I could just read instead of spend all my time doing clinical medicine, Okay, let's see. He says, Kasser is this other guy who disputes Kuhn. He says, it's much harder for people to see things that don't fit the paradigm. Yes. Okay. A good scientist has respect for evidence when it contradicts his theory. Well, they're not good scientists. The people who run conventional medicine, it's based on money. If there was no money in antidepressants and psych drugs, no one would give these terrible, awful poisons to people. Okay, no one would do that to a child. No one would give amphetamines to a child if there wasn't money in it. Okay, Milan Kundera lived from 1929 to 1923. And he said, first of all, he got himself in trouble with the Communist Party. He was made an unperson. And he says the struggle between the individual and the power is the struggle against forgetting. The new rulers try to rewrite the past. And I think that's an important point because this is what's happening in the United States as well. The sort of, this hand, the left, took over a lot of power in the USA. And they just been doing it for a long time. The billionaire perverts funding it to rewrite the textbooks, to try to tell the Americans, oh, your great country wasn't so great after all. Your founders weren't really Christian. Your founders were a bunch of slave owners. When you study it in more detail and get the original founding documents and the original historians, you see America is the greatest country ever founded in the history of the earth. Our founding fathers are the best ones that ever founded any country in the history of the earth. They had the most noble, the most intelligent attempts to make a Declaration of Independence and a Constitution of any country ever in the history of the earth. It's amazing how good they were. It's amazing how Christian they were. They're like Bible fanatics once you really read about them. Okay, so what's happening now is he says, all a man's life amongst his kind is nothing other than a battle to seize the ears of others. The first step in liquidating a people is to erase its memory, to destroy its books, its culture, its history. Yeah, that's what happened in the USA. The public schools are not for education. The public schools are for conditioning, to turn you away from God, turn you away from your parents, make you not care about your country so it can be destroyed. That's all what they do. And it's even worse nowadays, to castrate you, to drug you. Okay. So he says, a new power comes in, they rewrite the history books, destroy the culture of the people, their literature, their history, and then they have someone else to write new books, manufacture a new culture, invent a new history. And before long, the nation will forget what it was and what it is. So Western culture, Western civilization still exists. It's just hidden from the average person. But you study it. It's magnificent. It's 10 times better than anything else that's ever existed on this planet. Don't kid yourself about multiculturalism. Compared to Western civilization and Christianity, all other cultures are backward and primitive. They have nothing that they can compare that's of any significance compared to the art of Western civilization, its literature, its architecture, its institutions, its universities, okay, its charities. The country's better off when these things are run by the church. They do a better job. They really do. If you study history, you will see that as the case. The struggle of man against power is a struggle against forgetting. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you found those helpful.